Unless you've been living under a rock for the last 15 years, you have undoubtedly encountered a cell phone. Most likely you own and use one to communicate with other folks, use social media, surf the internet, play Angry Birds, and myriad other things. In fact, according to a United Nations report, that while only 15% of the world's population used cell phones in 2002, that number had climbed to 60% by 2009, and in December 2013, the number of smartphones globally was estimated at 1.4 billion. But even if we have all seen a cell phone and know how to use one, do we really understand these devices to the extent that we should? Where did they come from? How did they work technologically? How have smartphones changed the way we use phones? What has their impact been on society? And what can we speculate about their future? A brief history of the cell phone starts as early as the 1940s, when radio waves were used to facilitate communication over a handheld radio transmitter. But they were seldom used because of the high energy needed to power them, the physical weight of the device, approximately 70 pounds, and only 3 channels being available at any given time, even in urban areas. Each call had to be placed by an operator, and in 1948, AT&T's mobile telephone service boasted about 5,000 clients, placing up to 30,000 calls per week. In the 1960s, AT&T improved their mobile phone service by adding additional radio frequencies, introduced user dialing, and made the device lighter. Around this time, other companies arose to challenge AT&T by creating their own radio frequency technology, but this was largely unsuccessful because there weren't standard equipment or frequencies, nor was there a uniform billing database. In the 1980s, cellular AMPS made pre-existing technology obsolete. The first widely utilized cell phone technology is now referred to as 1G or first generation. The calls were placed over an analog network which could actually support modem communication. However, transfer rates were slow and portable electronics that used data were extremely rare. In the early 90s, second generation or 2D phones utilized the new technology of recently developed digital cellular networks, which improved sound capacity, supported some data transfer like texting, and a number of other aspects. The standard developed was called GSM, or Global Systems for Mobile. In simple terms, the individual cell site, a phone, sends a radio signal to a cellular radio tower that carries the signal eventually to its desired destination. Each cell uses a different set of frequencies to avoid interference and guarantee bandwidth. The cellular networks are also linked into the public switched telephone network, which is the infrastructure already in place consisting of cables and what have you. The General Packet Radio Service, GPRS, was the first global system for mobile that allowed for constant access to data, which was certainly a boon to technophiles everywhere. It made checking email on the go possible, but it was not technically fast enough to be considered 3G based on the UN's International Telecommunication Union standard. True 3G did not arise until UMTS became available to GSM networks, and CDMA became the successor to IS-95. That's a lot of abbreviations to be sure. The breakdown of our competing 3G technologies is as follows. GSM, Global System for Mobiles, and CDMA, Code Division Multiple Access, are both radio systems used for cell phones. They are both multiple access technologies, or a way to utilize one radio channel for multiple phone calls or internet connections. They both use radio towers to build their networks, and those networks can be good or bad regardless of the underlying technology. CDMA is widely used in the US, while GSM is widely used by the rest of the world. Also, GSM phones are more standardized. Any GSM carrier must accept any GSM-compliant phone, while CDMA networks can be more selective with regard to what phones they will and will not accept. 4G is the latest technology, and while everyone's not there yet, it does boast an impressive boost in all measurable speeds. From 3G to 4G, data throughput jumps from an average range of 0.5 to 1.5 Mbps to 2 to 12 Mbps. Peak upload rates go from 5 to 500 Mbps, and download rates go from 100 Mbps to 1 gigabit per second. The emphasis in this shift is to facilitate the data transfer required by today's mobile devices. The technology required by the standard will be advanced LTE and WinMax 2, and although in existence these are not widely available. The great benefit of using data transfer methods to carry a voice call is that it will be easier and cheaper to build a 4G tower in a rural area than run actual cables of any sort to folks who live in out-of-the-way places and want to use the internet. All of this speed gave rise to renewed popularity in application software, or as we call them, apps. Before the advent of the smartphone, apps were simply put pieces of software on a computer that did things like word processing or a calculator. Now with touch-sensitive, globally positionable device to work through, apps fit seamlessly into a society obsessed with speed, information, and convenience. Each of the major smartphone players at this point has set up a virtual marketplace where new software can be purchased electronically and downloaded directly onto the mobile device. No waiting in line to buy software at a specialty store, and no tedious installation process. The other thing that makes apps so functionally useful is that there's an app out there for virtually everything, transforming your smartphone into a singular device with myriad abilities. There are apps to supplement virtually every profession, games of all sorts, camera and video software, personal productivity, global positioning, and anything else that you can think of. A virtual tool, meaning one device that can become anything at a moment's notice, is a powerful tool indeed, and has already helped people in serious situations to perform actions that would have been otherwise outside of their knowledge sphere. Aside from standard web searches that provide virtually any factual knowledge in apps, the advent of constant access to data transfer means that you don't even need to be near a computer to stay connected with virtual communication channels such as email, message boards, Facebook, and other forms of social media. This connectedness presumably has good and bad consequences, although research into things such as task switching, multitasking, and cognitive overload have not been thoroughly researched, and results have been murky at best. One view of the issue is that in an environment of web browsing and using apps, our brains change the way that they process information by emphasizing task switching and lessening deep understanding and the transfer of momentary information in long-term memory. Another view is that the internet gives a practitioner of a particular skill ample ability to practice through dedicated internet communities such as chess, poker, and more classically academic topics, thus accelerating learning. Still, a third view is that media multitasking is different than more traditional multitasking, which would involve a cognitive process as well as a physical one, or possibly multiple physical tasks. While research findings remain unclear, one thing is certain. Research in this area will continue to grow as technology grows ever faster, necessitating our understanding of how it affects us on personal and societal issues. So where do we go from here? As we've seen, constant connectivity has amazing benefits and some potentially serious consequences. Technologically, data transfer speeds are getting faster and faster, so the flow of large amounts of information is only going to become easier, cheaper, and more ubiquitous. Tech mogul Google seems to be at the forefront of new types of research and development. Their Google Glass technology is essentially a smartphone that one wears as an eyepiece. The Explorer program is a user-driven beta test of this product, currently fashioned as eyeglass frames with one small glass lens that functions as a transparent screen. Eventually, the hardware will be minimized to be almost entirely unobtrusive, and it leads to reason that this sort of seamless integration will be irresistible to those who desire a plugged-in existence. Another avenue of Google's research, one a little further away from widespread production, is intended to be used by diabetics. It takes the form of a contact lens, complete with a microchip outside of the wearer's field of vision. Through a small hole in the lens itself, the chip measures blood sugar levels and will flash a warning signal when the levels get too high or too low. While limited in its functionality, it is easy to imagine a not-so-distant future where an informative contact lens keeps us up to date on communication, information, appointments, and entertainment. Whatever the future may bring, one thing is certain. Humans will not backpedal their communication technology willfully. Advancements in communication technology and our resulting shared knowledge base will only expand at a faster and faster rate. Just as ancient man evolved with language, fire, and simple tools, we seem to be on the precipice of a new evolution in which lightning-fast communication and a shared factual knowledge base will facilitate new ideas that have the potential to be both wonderful and terrible. Either way, those ideas will shape the face of the planet and mankind for centuries to come.